So I'm here with Steve Smith, who is going to be skiing in the Canadian Ski Marathon for the 10th time this year. Could you explain a little bit about what the Canadian Ski Marathon is?
The Canadian Ski Marathon is an event that takes place every year. It's a cross-country ski event. It's not a race. It's a sort of participation thing where people try to go as far as they can, or perhaps to complete the whole thing. It takes place between Lachute and Gatineau, or between Gatineau and Lachute on alternate years.
So what are the different categories?
Well, there's a lot of different categories, but basically there's tourer, bronze, silver, and gold. And tourers are people who might just do, the marathon is divided into sections. So each day there's 5 different sections with checkpoints and feeding stops in between. And so some people might do 1 section, 2 sections, 3 sections, 4, or do the whole thing. And typically if you're trying to do the whole thing both days, then the first time you try to do that, it's called doing your bronze. And if you succeed in doing that, the whole thing, then the next year you can do what's called the silver, and the silver is the same thing except you carry a 5-kilogram pack. And if you succeed in doing that whole thing, then the next year you are allowed to do what's called the gold, which is where you sleep out at night and you carry your gear. Again, it has to be 5 kilos, but it pretty much always would be anyway. And then you sleep out at night, which is what we're doing now.
What is it that brings you back to this event year after year?
A number of things. It's a challenge, and so I enjoy the challenge. I sort of enjoy the event itself, but it's not so much the actual event. I like preparing for it. It gives me an excuse to try to get in shape. And I particularly like that every year I do it with friends, and I do it with my son, and sometimes Sue, my wife, also does it. But there's a number of us who do it together, and that's a very important part of it.
How do you prepare for an event like this one?
Well, I ski, so as soon as there's enough snow to do cross-country skiing, I'll try to get out every weekend, sometimes twice on the weekends. Occasionally I'll go up to Mount Royal during the week for a short ski, but not too often. And then I try to go to make sure I get some other forms of exercise at the gym or something else, just knowing that I need to get a little more exercise than skiing on the weekend.
Mm-hmm. So how long would a typical ski be on the weekend?
A typical ski on the weekend might ski total 3-4 hours, sometimes longer, sometimes less, but it's on average 3 or 4 hours.
What do you expect for this year's marathon?
Well, I expect that there'll be something unexpected. There's always something that you don't expect to happen, whether it's weather or equipment or, I don't know, some problem. But I expect it'll go reasonably well unless the weather's... It all depends on the weather. So if the weather the last few years has been quite good for skiing, and if it continues like that, then I don't expect to have major problems. And the route that we do this year is relatively flat, so there's less worry about a big fall.
Thank you so much for talking to me today.
You're welcome.